turning a bit now, and top Democrats are demanding some answers in the Congressman Joe Sestak story. They say that if the White House did offer Sestak a job to get him to back out of the Pennsylvania race against Arlen Specter, then all the details do need to be told in this matter. Now, Illinois Senator Dick Durbin says this, quote, "At some point, I think Congressman Sestak needs to make clear what happened. Congressman Sestak raised the issue, and there's been some confusion. I hope he can make the facts as clear as possible." Now, this situation is stirring up a real hornet's nest of questions about whether the White House may have broken any laws here. Judge Andrew Napolitano is a Fox senior judicial analyst, and he joins me now. Judge, good to see you.
Good to see you, Martha.
You know, it's interesting because the White House has basically said, we looked into the matter. There was no issue here, and it's closed. So can anyone compel the White House to go further?
Well, the Justice Department could. The Attorney General could appoint an independent counsel. Why would he do that? Because he personally probably knows the people in the White House who are on the other end of the Sestak conversation, and the independent counsel could conduct the investigation. If the Justice Department refuses to appoint anyone to look at this, the allegations are very serious. If Congressman Sestak happened to be in Pennsylvania when the conversation occurred, which is his home state, or Virginia, which is where he lives when he's in the district, then the law enforcement authorities in those two states, who just happen to be Republicans, could commence an investigation and put him before a grand jury and compel him to say who told you what, when, and what did they offer you. Short of that, there's very little that anybody can do to compel him to speak other than political pressure,
right,
which is mounting.
You know, it raises a lot of questions because the White House says, we looked into the matter. There was nothing inappropriate that happened here. Is there a way to say to a candidate, you know, if you change your mind, if you decide to take a different course, we are interested in something here at the White House that you might be really happy about?
Yes, and this really would be a he said type of conversation, Martha, because we're not talking about somebody who shot somebody else or somebody who robbed a bank. We're talking about the nuance of words.
Right.
So if someone in the White House said, hey, Congressman, if you're ever interested, and I'm just going to throw this out, in being Secretary of the Navy someday, call me. That is not a crime, and it's the type of conversation that happens in Washington every day. But if someone said, if you're interested in the Secretary of the Navy and you'd leave Arlen Specter alone, call me.
Right.
That is an attempt to bribe. That is an attempt to influence the outcome of a federal election. And if others were involved, it's a conspiracy as well.
You know, my mind goes back to the whole Blagojevich incident, and the excuses there were that, you know, this is the way business is done. People have conversations like this all the time. You know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. There is nothing illegal in any of this.
You know, this is a great issue that you raised, Martha, because we not only have the Blagojevich case in which he says this is the way politics was done. We not only have Congressman Sestak saying they tried to get me off the ballot. We have Attorney General Andrew Romanoff of the state of Colorado making similar statements about his race against incumbent Democratic Senator Michael Bennet in the Democratic primary in Colorado.
Right.
So, might former Governor Blagojevich want a person on the witness stand in his case in Chicago to explain this is the way politics works? And if so, who might that person be? The president.
Yeah, you know, and that raises one more question, because we've talked about sort of the least worst case scenario where, you know, the discussions were had in a way that is not inappropriate, as David Axelrod has said. What about the worst case scenario? Because there have been suggestions that even impeachment could happen if the president was in any way in on any discussion that was a trade-off, job for job.
Well, the Constitution provides three bases for impeachment: high crimes and misdemeanors, treason, and bribery. Now, if these are all ifs, Martha, if the president was involved, and if the president dispatched someone who worked for him, and if that person was told, offer Sestak whatever you have to get him out of the race against Arlen Specter, that would form the basis for an impeachable offense.
So if I understand you correctly, this goes nowhere unless the Pennsylvania leadership decides to press the matter with Sestak and somehow subpoenas him to explain to them where this phone call happened. Am I right?
Unless there's enough political pressure put on Congressman Sestak that he feels he has to give a public answer, yes, you are correct. Congressman Darrell Issa Republican of Southern California, has indicated he's going to file an ethics complaint against Congressman Sestak to force him to explain this to the Ethics Committee. Such a complaint will go nowhere unless the Democrats in the House go along with it.
All right, very interesting. Judge Napolitano, great to have you here in this time slot, sir. We're glad you're available today. Thank you very much.
Good to be with you. Say hello to that young kid, Hemmer, for me.
Yeah, I'm watching.
Judge is looking for you, Hammer.
Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Coming after you. President Obama.